It's time now to look at some of the stories making recent headlines on this topic. A few favourites from the Daily Mail recently. Arrest the harm caused by the woke police. This is an editorial piece from the paper asking, are they the ardent and uncritical champions of woke causes or the enforcers of law and order? And claiming police appear less interested in criminal justice than social justice. Another Daily Mail headline hinting at where this could be coming from reads, Home Secretary Suella Braverman tells woke police chiefs to spend less time on diversity and concentrate on fighting crime. What are your thoughts on headlines of this kind, and what do you think the impact is?
I get annoyed at I don't know, call it a newspaper if you will, rags like the Daily Mail, really, appropriating the term woke, which is rooted in the black civil rights movements of the 1970s in the US, and it was essentially speaking to the fact that people were awake to the injustices and discriminations faced by a minoritized group, and to be woke meant that you essentially empathised and were prepared to do something about those barriers that were very real. And now it's just sort of being used, by rags like the Daily Mail as a throwaway comment to sort of delegitimise people and to almost mock anyone who wants to, actually see what other people's lived experiences are. So that's me. I hate the way woke has now been used. It's been completely taken and used in a different way. But to call the police woke, it almost makes me laugh. It's completely false.
It's like, could they be more unwoke?
I know. Have you actually been in a police station? Have you ever spoken to a police officer? The police. And this is the thing. Somehow they've created this false narrative that the police are woke. And I'm like, the police have never been, they've never been woke. They've never.
They don't understand it.
Exactly. I think, and I looked at some of these articles and, some of the imagery was the police at Pride and things like that, which is absolutely great. There are officers within the force who are LGBTQ+, and it's brilliant that they feel supported and they can go to Pride. But quite often, and this is a frustration in Liverpool, and I know in London where the police were told that they couldn't march at the front of Pride, when we speak to this PR machine that is the police, woke is a really shallow PR attempt at looking like they're engaging with real issues. So it's when you see your dancing police officers at Carnival, it's when you see your police officers at Pride. But you don't see police officers when black houses are being broken into, and that's when black communities are being unprotected. And the LGBTQ plus community, and this has been a huge bone of contention. There's been serial killers which were aiming, young gay men. In Liverpool, we've had LGBTQ plus hate crime. I'm on an organisation called Reclaim Pride, skyrocket. And a lot of people were really questioning, well, you can't turn up at our marches, you can't come to Carnival and dance with us and then ignore us for the rest of the year when we actually need you. So what they're referring to as woke to me is just part of the, the really superficial, surface level PR work that the police do that benefits no one but the police, and no one's really asking for that. Black communities are asking genuinely to be protected. LGBTQ plus communities are asking to be taken seriously when hate crimes are committed against them. So these headlines drive me mad because they're false, and no one is actually being served. The police aren't woke. They're not helping anybody. If the police were woke and they were using a term like woke, I'd be like, you know what? They see diversity. They see the needs to be representing and meeting the needs of communities who are quite marginalised. The Daily Mail can make fun all they want, but the fact is what the Daily Mail are referring to is just a real superficial PR that the police often engage in. So I don't like the headlines, and I don't like the suggestion that the police are woke, because they're not.
Yeah, it's quite clear that they're using the term woke just to weaponise it and delegitimise, as you say. It never baffles me how desperate they are to show their faults, and they're always deflecting and gaslighting. This is a massive form of gaslighting. I remember during the George Floyd issues, and taking a knee was something
God.
that
went on and on, didn't it?
Yeah. And then Cressida Dick said, "Oh well, I'm telling officers that they can't take a knee," and I thought, well, why would you want to say that? I mean, there's one thing about being a police officer is you still got the element of discretion. So if you find you're in a situation that your discretionary powers means you can show some form of embracing the community, working with the community, being, I'm not saying turn your back on crime or anything like that, but you actually are building bridges, not barriers.
I mean, doesn't that mean you might police better? You might tackle crime better?
It's about trust and confidence. People think, well, actually, you're different. I mean, one of the other ways they've really prevented bridges being built was when officers were able to play football games with certain communities. They even criticised a Met officer. He's a really good basketball player, and he goes against the adage that white men can't jump, and he can slam dunk like everyone else, and they love him. The black students love him when he will slam dunk, play basketball with them, and when you see those WhatsApp videos of them just working together, I know that officer has more influence than a whole squad of officers patrolling up and down the street and stopping everything that moves. He will get more information about what's going on because he's understanding the importance of being approachable, because police are not seen as approachable because of this, I'm testosterone driven, militaristic person, and I don't need you unless I call on you. So back off. And they will escalate everything they go to, literally de-escalate. They're not trauma informed, they're not trauma responsive. It's all Robocop stuff. And until such time they understand that you're a police service, it's not a control and power thing, and you're there not to be soft on crime, you are there to be a public servant, and you have to know what goes with that. Ethics and integrity are given, but more importantly, you will do something different to show people that you're a human being and you can understand their situation, even if you've had to arrest them for certain things, or that family, all right, they're dysfunctional, or they have mental health issues. You still respond in a professional way and don't stereotype them, and you will do things that try and help their situation, that their police constable or sergeant or whoever is there for them and not there to do something to them. And that's what these sort of headlines about. Let's do things to people and not be there for them.
Right. I wonder, why does the police force or the police as a job, police officers as a job, attract those men who are testosterone fueled, who want power and control? Is that a fair thing to say? Does it attract people like that?
White supremacy is drawn to policing because of the control and power. When you think about the power of a police officer, you don't have any, not even the military have that unless you're in martial law. So to take someone's liberty away just on sometimes you've had a bad day. It's got nothing to do with intelligence. It's got nothing to do with information you received. It's because you failed the attitude test. That's one of the biggest things, the Ways and Means Act. Oh, breach of the peace, get in the van, slam on the cuffs, throw them in the police station, all these sort of things. And unfortunately, and it goes back to this 20,000 uplift, because they did hardly any vetting and hardly any real sort of level, they lowered the minimum standard. So a lot of white supremacists have joined the organisation. And that's one of the reasons why Cousins could get in from another force, because there's hardly any vetting. He could just carry on with what he's doing when he was in the previous force. So that's a thing. The nature of policing, if you are into the control and power, is an automatic attraction for white supremacists.
Right.
Yeah. Can we talk about also the involvement of Suella Braverman here? Because something that an officer I spoke to, he said, this government is going in a really scary direction. They're trying to position police against people, which is kind of like what you were saying with, not allowing them to take the knee and to relate to the people that they're supposed to be policing. And just lately we've seen a lot of headlines because Suella Braverman has come out and been like, oh, hey, I back police to ramp up stop and search efforts. And, she's not really doing anything. She's just saying something and she's getting a headline in every paper for it. And this is clickbait. This is a culture war. And the media is playing into this politicization of policing, this propaganda that's really serving, very populist political agendas. And I mean, I wonder if you think that the media is guilty of playing into politicians' hands and using the police as a prop in that way.
Oh,
Daily Mail is, for sure.
100% aren't they? They just, the newspapers have to get clicks and sell articles. And so if there's a hot topic for debate, of course, they'll be all over that. And, I feel like the current government are really astute in knowing which issues to which issues to press the button on and really turn people's attention. And when I was reading the Suella headline and reading the article, I thought it was really interesting because they can't really get away with the black on black crime narrative anymore. People are really onto that one. So instead, they say black young men are more likely to be the victims of knife crime. So they've just flipped it on its head a little bit. And it's a bit like you're still problematizing and pathologizing the whole, black community. And it's not, when it comes to, knife crime, and, Leroy, obviously you've policed London, but especially in Liverpool, this is really noticeable because we've got a significantly smaller black and diverse community. That level of violent crime doesn't relate to race, it relates to class and socio-economic status. So where there is poverty, there'll be high levels of young boys carrying knives. You could go to the poor. Liverpool's got some of the poorest areas of deprivation in the whole of the UK. And when you go to those areas, that's where you see your kids carrying knives. Most of them carrying knives because they're scared that someone's going to knife them. And it's like this cycle. And so for me, stop and search, it's massively ineffective. If we look at Section 60, which is the one that's massively used against black and diverse communities, and this is a suspicionless stop and search, they're only so there's a suspicionless stop and search that can be used in supposedly exceptional circumstances where it's suspected that there'll be serious violence or disorder. They're massively used in diverse communities and disproportionately used in diverse communities, but the charge and arrest rate for that Section 60 suspicionless stop and search is 4%. So 96% of the people who are being stopped and searched, massively, used against diverse and young black men, have done nothing wrong. That's like clear evidence of racial profiling. That's the clearest evidence that when they are given that power, just as they were in the 80s, which led obviously to the Macpherson report, they will disproportionately use it against young black people. So, and stop and search alone does nothing because those issues are still there, and it feels like so much of police is just firefighting. So much of policing is just reactive and there's no proactive work. The only way you will take away those young boys feeling like they need to carry knives and these young people feeling like the only way to get ahead is to sell drugs is by putting real opportunities in communities that have none. And I'm not talking about racial communities, I'm talking about working class communities, the white communities in my area too. And we need to, the whole pathologising of young black people and making it a black issue really is a misdirect because it's a societal issue. And as you take away the funding and you take away the opportunities and you take away any hopes and aspirations for young people in working class areas, that's when you see all the violence ramp up. We're 10 years away from children's centres. I feel really passionate about children's centres because children's centres actually made a difference. They did that early intervention work and gave families opportunities. And in that 10 years, violent crime's gone through the roof. And I sometimes sit and think, is there just no one in government connecting the dots?
Well, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Because if you look at what austerity has done over the last 10, 12 years, it's quite clear that it's demoralised, deprived communities. That's been on the receiving end of it. So it's not just police numbers. It's also youth services. They see that as non-essential when, as you say, they were the ones that engaged with young people so that they weren't left to their own devices. Another thing that we saw, exclusions in schools. You might as well write the name of that person on the prison institution's records a few years down the line, if not months, when you start excluding them because they're taking out their peer group, they're left to their own devices with local authority, which is very patchy. And my daughter's a PRU teacher, and she really is committed to our students, not only to get them back, but higher grades and everything, not just to leave them to just mess around and get caught by the dysfunctional role models. And that's the thing. When you withdraw your assets, policing, local authority assets, other statutory partners, there's a void. So who's going to fill the void? Mandem on road. They're the ones who are very charismatic, very influential. They will give, all those assistants you used to get. They will give them, I'll give you £20, go and buy some KFC. They groom them through food, through other things, not just drugs, carry this weapon for me, all sorts of things. So this government's got blood on their hands because they, in themselves, have actually created this problem that they're trying to show strength. And it's just so, for me, it makes me so angry to know that our children, and even my grandchildren, they're under 10, but they're going to grow up in this situation, which is just a vicious cycle of toxicity. And it's on a scale now, it's just like, where do you start? How do you address? No, it's not just about numbers, it's not just about the number of officers, it's the quality of the officers, knowing what their role is about. It's around those youth services, and picking up those signs and having the time to deal with it. There's so many people. They would love to do it, but the caseload is so high. Morale is terrible. They have... They're literally just a number crunching exercise. And this government has allowed this to happen. They, and they've said, they wanted to save 40 billion. Well, you spent 400 billion on COVID, and all the assets that have been squandered there. So that 40 billion is a total waste of time.
Yeah.
And here we are to pick up the pieces. And that's why we need to call people out. We really need to call them out. We haven't got time to listen to their BS, and it just, as I'm getting older, I'm getting more radical, I've just realized, I just can't deal with this stuff anymore, and just think we're going to listen to politicians or people in authority. It needs people power. It really does. And that's why I'm part of a network called the Alliance of Police Accountability, because we are doing an evidence-based approach, and not just London, it's across the country. An alliance of people that we're really saying we've got to do for self, and this is allyship, and this got intersectionality and the neurodiversity and all the other stuff that the government hasn't got a clue about. We haven't touched about mental health and what's going on there. But we just need to. We can't sit back. I could be on a beach somewhere in Africa or the Caribbean chilling because I've done my bit, but I can't sit there enjoying, life when I know so many people are suffering and no fault themselves, and they're being demonized because of the color of their skin or where they live and the class things. It just infuriates me to know that they've gotten away with this. And then they're doing this psychodrama time and time again. What else is, it's just...
Yeah.
But I'm disappointed, but I'm not discouraged.
Okay.
I cannot allow myself to be discouraged because we have to pull this back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant.
No, that's all
No, I'm
right.
into
We
the
love
rant.
a bit of a
Rant
rant
away.
here
Oh,
at
good,
Media
good.
Storm.
I've got to vent my spleen at some stage.
Yeah.